Managing Director for Pageant Global Limited, all the way from South Africa. Yes, sir, you have the floor now for role of women in economy. Here we've learned about building a woman, train a girl, train a woman. So now let's have the role of women in economy. Dr. Sibanda, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and thank you very much also for the invitation to be part of this event. I've really appreciated all the speakers that have spoken this afternoon. I've come here into this platform not as an expert, but to learn. And this afternoon, I am pleased to say that I have been empowered, I've been inspired, and I have learned a lot. I was raised by a mother that in essence looked after me, made some sacrifices. I was the only male child that she bore out of 4 children. So I've got 3 sisters. So I grew up in essence amongst the women. And later, as I was growing up, I was raised by a grandmother who was a friend, who was my mentor. And after my mother died, she stayed on to inspire me, to guide me. And I've been fortunate that throughout my life, I've also been mentored by women. And so in my first job in government in 2004 in South Africa, one of my bosses was a woman who also happened to be about 10 years younger than me. And so that was the first time, in essence, that I had a woman boss. And I learned so much, from her. And I learned, that women can lead equally as men. In my current job now at Big and Global, within the Big and Group, my group CEO is a woman, an amazing woman, Dr. Snowy Koza, who is doing amazing things and inspires a lot of people throughout the continent. Our CFO is a woman. And I'm also honored to be married to a wonderful woman who is a wonderful mother, a wonderful wife, a life coach, and really an inspiration, to me and many. So I have no doubt in my mind as to the importance and the role of women, in society. And also I've learned that women, in essence, are multipliers. And I say that because as I was being raised by a mother that was a secretary, she raised and saved enough money to send me to a good school. And I remember the day that she dropped me at school, I asked her, Mom, how are we going to afford the fees for the following year? Because I knew that that school was expensive. And her response was, God will provide. And so I learned something from that incident, that women inspire hope, and prayerful women, and most women that I know are very prayerful and spiritual women. They also give more, in essence, to their young ones, more than just men do. So I recognize that women should not be treated as inferior to men in economic activities. Women are entitled to be treated as humans because they are human beings, and in most instances, women are more superior than men, because women, when they make decisions, it's not for self. In most cases, women, when they make the decisions, it's for the greater good, it's for the community, which is why women are multipliers. The other day, I was having lunch with a good friend of mine, Temba Baloy, and he says to me, and we're talking about builders and makers, and that we need to build a culture of making and building in Africa. And he said, you remind me of my grandmother when we had the last potato in the house, and all of us were hungry and wanted to eat that potato. She would say, well, let's plant the potato, and in a few months' time, there'll be more potatoes. And indeed, that one potato that was planted, in essence, gave birth and to many, more potatoes, months later. That's how women think. Women think about the future. Women think about multiplying. But the business world and the economy is still very much not recognizing the importance of women. In 2020, PwC released a study in South Africa in which they reported that although women make up, in essence, about 51.2% of the population, about 45% of the economically active population, only 20.7% of board members of Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed companies were women. And when one looks at the executive directors, only 19 women, 19 of the CEOs were women in terms of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange listed companies, which is only 6% of all the CEOs. Now that's very low. Now, if we can take it one step further and look at the pay gap, and this is where it's actually shocking, and this is where one realizes that women are not treated or seen as being equal. In the telecommunications sector, the pay gap was 53%. In the healthcare sector, the pay gap was 47%. In the consumer services, the pay gap was 65%. Although women do exactly the same job as men, we realize that women are not paid equally for the same job. And this is something that needs to change. Sitting down yesterday with a young lady that I was mentoring, and we're reflecting on this. And she was asking me, how do we change this? And part of it is really men like me and other men out there who sit in the boardrooms to recognize the fact that women are not treated as equal. It's for men like me and others that when they're invited into the boardroom or they're invited into a webinar, they look and say, how many women actually on this particular panel? And in fact, refuse to participate in a webinar which is just made up of men. Because women have got a voice. Women should be afforded equal opportunity in the boardroom. So it's important that we deal with some of these factors that keep women out of the economic activity. And some of these are cultural. So I've enjoyed, in essence, the inputs that have been made, the wise words of our counselor, our Nigerian, Irish, sister, amazing, because it starts in the family. It starts how we raise the boys in our homes. And I think the sad thing is every child, every one of us is born of a woman. It's a woman that actually nurtures us when we cannot do anything for ourselves. It's a woman that actually thinks about what food we're going to have at the dinner table. And yet, when it comes to the boardroom, how many men, how many of us actually really think about the importance and the voice of women? That is something to actually think about. So in society, we need to really reflect. We need to also ask and question ourselves certain roles that have been reserved for men and no women are allowed. We need to actually ask ourselves why. Why are we perpetuating old age prejudices? So as men also, we need to ask ourselves, and this is something that I was reflecting on in the discussion yesterday, is where are the decisions made in corporate? Many decisions are not made in the boardroom. By the time we get to the boardroom, the decisions have been made. The decisions get made in the golf courses. The decisions get made at the bar. The decisions get made at the end of a golf course when men are actually sitting and drinking or eating on the 18th hole or the 19th hole. Where are the women when we're making those particular decisions? And it's quite important, I think, for us men to ask those particular questions and make sure that there is more women that are included. I think that we should not be apologetic. Women should not be asking for a place at the table. Women should be afforded a place at the table. And therefore, as men, and I call upon myself and others, and I say, let's make sure that we create more critical mass of women in corporate, in business, in our economy. I mean, we can look in terms of presidents, in terms of ministers. How many ministers are there in our countries? How many women presidents are there? And I think it's quite pleasing to see organizations like the WTO that are now being led by a woman, an African woman. And we need to see more of that. And I think the importance of having those examples is that they also dispel the myth that women cannot lead, because men will be led by women, and the boy child growing up will recognize the fact that women can lead at the highest echelons of our economy, of our society. And so in Africa, women's leadership also helps to drive direct change in structural policies that can lead to better equality in society. And the little girls and boys need to see more African women presidents to show that girls and women can do anything they put their minds to. And therefore, I believe that placing women in leadership positions ensures that the resources are allocated appropriately. And I want to conclude by perhaps highlighting the Africa of our dreams. And this is something that I started to think about as we started. And for me, the Africa of my dream, it's an Africa that is free of discrimination and prejudice against women, where women are not only mothers and caregivers, but women are leaders and multipliers, where women are equal to men. They're not seen as objects, but they're seen as human beings and part of society. An Africa where there is no gender-based violence and no woman dies in the hands of or because of men. An Africa where the girl child has the same opportunities as a boy child, where a woman can become anything she dreams of being, or becoming, or having. An Africa where women have equal opportunities to play, work, and also equal opportunities to pay. An Africa where there are more women founders of startup companies and where women lead large businesses. An Africa where more women are in science, technology, and innovation and coming up with solutions to many of the challenges that face our continent. An Africa where women are ministers and presidents, and we don't suddenly exclaim and say, wow, there's a woman president, because it is acceptable that women can be presidents. An Africa where men accept women as mentors and leaders. An Africa where women are respected. That is my Africa. Thank you very much for having me this afternoon. Much appreciated.
Wow, 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 wow. This your dream must surely come to pass for Africa. This dream must come to pass. We already having it. We have it at the WTO. Tanzania is also following, so don't worry. We are coming down to Nigeria. If Yemi Adenuga can do it all the way from Ireland, we can do it also. So don't worry, your Africa of dream is coming up. And we've known that women can lead, we can inspire hope, we can sacrifice. Wow, I've been looking up forward to this, and yes, women, that we're gonna have equal opportunities for women in science and technology, politics, governance, name it, God. today to the chief host, while he will be sharing take us further in this program. Chief host, Mr. Tayo Olubadewa, over to you, please.
Oh, thank you so much. Brilliant presentation from everyone, from Joan Rowley, the Dean. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to my godmother, Councillor Yemi Adenuga. Thank you. Thumbs up. I can see you always shining. Indeed, your energy in motion. Dr. Mclean Sibanda, thank you. Awesome presentation. In fact, we're going to run that dreams together. Oh, somebody is trying to hack into this event. I have to knock him out now. His name is, let me see if he's here. No, he's not here. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay. I think he's gone. I just got, all right. Wow. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Thank you so much. The threat has been dealt with. Thank you so much. So we have a beautiful presentation from Birijet Eleshin. Thank you. Then to the Madam Moderator. Awesome job. Thank you, Miss Karima. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. All over.
Miss Titilayafe Olumadewa, over to you. We want to hear you speak. Are you there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for this opportunity to introduce the next speaker. And our next speaker is Miss Karima. She is the director of Institute for Economic Development and Planning. So she will be talking about African women's role. So over to you, Mrs. Karima. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Karima.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to join this wonderful gathering. I feel very much humbled and inspired by all what has been said before. So since the previous participants have introduced themselves, let me say that I'm Tunisian, meaning that I am African. Indeed, I'm from the continent, the country that has given its name to the whole continent. So feeling full African and legitimate here. We are still in March, so that's why we are meeting and discussing women-related issues. But at the same time, my main recommendation is that the reflection should be a year-long matter in our respective agenda. And I'm seeing from what has been said that it is the case. I'm very also happy that it is a man who is bringing us together here today. Is it a promise, a symptom? I hope it is so, of a change in the mindsets that gender issues are not only the business of women alone, but is everybody's business. From past presentation, my takeout is that we have to teach our girls resilience, to never give up, to share their experiences so others can learn, to believe in themselves, and we have to tell them more frequently, you can make it. So I'm feeling a little bit blessed because I've grown up in the post-independence of Tunisia, where women's rights were on the top of the agenda, and I've had an intelligent father. But at the same time, I feel that, the small microcosm in which I grew up didn't prepare me for the so-called external world, and I'll have the opportunity to come back to that later. So basically what I wanted to share with you today are a few thoughts from my experience and my work as director of IDEP. Again, the centrality of women's roles in development is now recognized worldwide. And from the United Nations point of view, since I am working for the United Nations, we have seen a move from what were called the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goal, versus the SDGs, where a whole goal now is dedicated to women, gender equity, which is SDG 5. But of course, you can see embedded in other goals the issues relating to gender issues. So where are we starting from today? Today, the theme of the 8th of March celebration of women's rights is women in leadership, achieving an equal future in a COVID-19 world. Let me start by saying that when we speak about women in this type of context, actually, the first finding is that data is missing. And a number of studies are built on empirical work, and we need to scale up all this and make sure that we do have the data to be able to document how women are in the whole environment. So the theme is women in leadership. So let me start by saying that today in the continent, we have very poor representation of women in decision-making positions. And the few talents we have go to Ireland. So this is not good for us, except that I'm seeing that they are giving back to the continent, so which is good and saluted. And I wanted to salute the accession to the presidency of Tanzania, to Mrs. Samia Suluhu. It is very encouraging. At the same time, if you look at one of the main areas of work of the continent, we see that women in Africa represent nearly 70% of the workforce in agriculture and contribute to up to 90% of the labor. But few of them have access to land, for example, and many of them lose land after losing a husband or a male tutor, which is very impeding to them being full-fledged actors there. Again, low participation of women in wealth creation. If you look at non-paid work, those who are managing and leading their households, they are doing a lot, but this is not fully and formally recognized. They have limited access to resources, basic services, finance opportunities. If you look at recent data from UNESCO, they indicate that only 20% of researchers are employed in research and development who are women. And this, of course, this figure varies across region within the continent, but we have regions where women are very, very poorly represented. Women in trade are a minority in the formal sector, a majority in the informal one. Again, fragility of their situation, vulnerability, and we do hope, and we are working towards that the recently launched African Free Trade Area will give them more visibility and recognize their role in a better way. At the same time, we can see that more and more we have an increasing number of women candidates for formal and unfortunately informal migration. Again, this speaks about their vulnerability. Again, vulnerability to climate change. Samira has very eloquently developed this earlier. And today, we can unfortunately only recognize that COVID has further exacerbated this poor situation. Loss of income, they are the first target, instability, violence against women and young girls, out of school because of poor access to infrastructure, etc., etc. So for me, these are few of the challenges we have to address in an inclusive manner. And each one of you in your own capacity, as far as what we have heard so far, is doing it in a brilliant manner. And thank you, ladies, for what you are doing. So we have to recognize that we are progressing in terms of policies and framework, and the UN is here to assist countries and all stakeholders actually to make progress towards those goals. But policies and frameworks are not sufficient. Implementation is the key challenge, together with monitoring and accountability, and which leads us to the issue of good governance. Let me share with you an example from my home country, Tunisia. very early after independence, a number of rights were given to women, and in particular, rights for divorce. Women had the opportunity, while we were in a Muslim society, to request themselves divorce and to have rights to raise their children, to keep the house, etc. This was the law. But when it came to implementation, I mean, very rapidly, we had to recognize that no progress were made despite the law and the progress in the law. So the president then, late President Bourguiba, decided to create a cohort of women judges so that it can bring more nuance in the way cases of divorce were treated. And it is through the empowerment of those women, and they're giving them the possibility actually to work with their male colleagues, that progress in the implementation of the law was made. So I think that it is very important that we have in the decision-making aspect for laws and frameworks and policies to be gender sensitive, but also when it comes to practice and action, to have women involved so that they can ensure a balance in the decision and the action taken. Let me now rapidly move to EDEP. For those who are not familiar with our institute, EDEP is the East African Institute for Economic Development and Planning. We are based in Dakar, Senegal, and we work for all the 54 African countries of the United Nations. Basically, what we do is we support African member states in designing, implementing, and monitoring policies, development policies that will support, the achievement of the development priorities. And for us, it is very critical that we are able to mainstream gender dimension into all our program. What we try to do is to give priority to gender equality as an integral part of all training and research activities we are conducting. So we try to ensure that all concerned curricula, because everything, of course, cannot be engendered, but all concerned training curricula include a gender dimension through content embedment, access to relevant data, and development of specific modules address gender-related matters. As an example, last year in 2020, we organized courses on gender-responsive economic policy management, and these were not directed to women only. And we organized a course on gender and trade, so that those who are involved in building the African free trade area can take into account a gender dimension. We have also organized for Rwanda, as per Rwanda request, a tailor-made training on gender sensitive policies. And I can say that Rwanda, and you all know that, for example, in terms of representation of women in parliament, Rwanda is one of the best performer, not only at the level of our continent, but worldwide. We have also, in order to increase the discussion and the dialogue about gender issue, we organized a webinar on women and governance in the public and private sectors, so that we can see how we can improve their participation. All this information can be found, of course, on our website. Now, this is from, I would say, a qualitative and substantive aspect, but we also need to reach out to all women. Actually, we have realized that primarily our main audience is the public sector, civil servant in our countries, because we work on shaping and designing a new policy for development. But at the same time, we have realized that when we issue a call for participation and application, the number of women trained is very limited. This was the case when we only organized on-site courses. Women had more difficulties than their male colleagues to leave their houses for 2 weeks period and come to Dakar to benefit from our courses. But with the digital learning and e-learning facilities, now we can see more and more participation. And I'm very happy to share with you that since 2018, we have moved from 187 women trained to 257, and last year we have trained 484 women. But this number remains very, very small compared to the number of men who have benefited from our training. In 2020, they were 2,000 people, meaning that it is a minority, and we need to work on that. So I count on you, ladies and gentlemen, as well, to make sure that we have more applicants and have more women participate in our courses, because what we do is not training for the sake of training, but it is training to have an impact on policy making. And we have opened now through the digital learning program, we have opened our courses to not only women in the public sector, but all the sectors, private sector, academia, private civil society organization, the media, because they have a say in all this and they can help us change the mindset and promote gender supportive programs. So we will continue to actively advocate for the nomination of women to these training courses. And again, I count on you for that. It also acts as a think tank, and we organize a number of high-level dialogues on development issues. And again, the gender dimension, we try to mainstream it and embed it in all the areas where it is relevant. And this year, we are happy to report that we had close to 900 participants in our research and think tank activities, out of which we had 553 women, which is really very, very encouraging to make sure that they participate in the thinking. And since this meeting is organized by a youth institution, let me also share with you that 2021 we look at more specifically youth expectation and young girls' expectations. By training, I'm an information and ICT person, so I'm very much aware of the need for Africa to go digital and to make the best utilization of the new digital era and see how this can promote gender equity and gender participation in all the sectors of economic, social, and environmental development. And our headquarters at the ECA, together with the International Telecommunication Union, gave the opportunity last December to 3,000 young women from across the continent to learn modern ways of coding to build their information and communication technology capacity, so that they can be full-fledged actors actually when it comes to trying to find the best skills to promote gender-based policies in Africa. So, as I said earlier in the chat box, let me conclude with that. I think that we should not only dream of Africa, the Africa of our dream needs to become a reality. And if we are able to work together to make it a reality, I mean, let's do it and let's continue doing it for those who are doing so. I think it is a prerequisite if we want us to reach our development goals and ensure that equal opportunities are given to all our citizens. Thank you.
Over to you, Madam Moderator. Brilliant presentation
Wow.
from over to you, Madam Moderator.
Wow, that's wonderful. She has given us an insight to so many opportunities. Like Councillor Adenuga said, opportunities are everywhere. And now we also had opportunity